always get confused. Is the city clock slow or fast?
You're at 4:59.
Okay.
I'll let you know when it turns to 5
Yeah.
o'clock. There you go. Official internet time. Yeah, that clock's about a minute slow.
Oh, I'm gonna put my phone away since I turned it off. Your computer will tell you. It's funny how now that we're all connected to,
Everybody knows it's not relative time. It's a year from now, when daylight saving time goes away, we can all just pick which one we want. Just have whatever we want, have our own time.
there we go. Hey, I hope standard time goes away and then we keep that. But anyway, I believe it is 5 o'clock, and I'm Dave DeBlock, and I'm here to call the meeting to order as the vice chair, because our chairperson is at a swim meet. So first and foremost, I'm sure you've all had an opportunity to read the minutes. Can I entertain a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes with unanimous voice vote. Communications from the audience. If there's something that is not on the agenda and you'd like to talk to us, now is your time. Seeing no one rushing to the mic, I will move on to new business. New business is 536 West 17th Street. We have a site plan request. This will have a public hearing. And I would invite I think I'm going to have the person who's presenting, or who's asking for the applicant. So I would say we'll do the applicant first.
Good evening. My name is Jason Uhas with Legacy Commercial, and we're a former Family Video, so same company, but Family Video no longer exists. So yes, we're asking for I think we're allowed 3 waivers. We're asking for 2 waivers. One would be a 39% window coverage on our new addition. We're looking to add 1,500 square feet for interior storage for a Dollar General that is coming. I think we're allowed to have Dollar General fits in the use there. We're asking to expand the size of the building by 1,500 square feet to accommodate some interior storage for them instead of just cramming it into the existing site there. And so one of the things we're looking for is a reduction from 60% window coverage on the new frontage to 39%. It's a fairly short amount of space we're adding on 17th Street. It'll be a longer section, as you can see in the plan there. And then second would be a waiver from the setback. I believe it's 50 feet minimum, 55 foot maximum, but we're not doing a new build. We're just adding on right to the existing to accommodate them. Yep.
Okay. Any questions, or should we move on to the staff presentation?
Sure.
Thank you.
All set?
Yeah, just a few things, maybe to make sure we're all clear. So yes, the request that they are asking for is for site plan approval for the addition. You see it here on your screen in that sort of darkened color on the east side of the existing building. It's about 1,500 square feet. So our ordinance requires that it come to the Planning Commission if it's over 500 square feet. This is in the form-based code South Shore Village. And so anything over 500 square feet has to come to the Planning Commission. And then as mentioned, they are seeking a couple waivers that our ordinance provides for, just as they've outlined them. I'm trying really hard to, not use the word, that those are not variances. Those are waivers. Those are specific areas of our code that we built into that code to allow for some flexibility as we, look at these sites, recognizing that there could be certain areas that you would want to have some discretion to be able to allow for some differences in there. So they're not exceptions, they're not variances, we simply call them waivers. So again, on the site plan here that you're looking at, you see the addition on the east side. You also see a couple other things that are happening on the property. You see some new landscaping going in along 17th Street as well as along Dykema. You see a new connection, a new pedestrian connection in from Dykema. That's something that the new UDO ordinance requires as well. And then there is a little bit of reworking of the detention pond up in that northeast corner of the site. This is the elevation plan of the site. So as they mentioned, one of the things that they're asking for is an exception on the amount of windows along this new addition. I think it's important to remember too, that the site plan review is really for the addition. The use of retail is permitted out there. And so really your job is to look at the site plan and these waivers. That's really the task that you have tonight. So the frontage that you see, they simply want to match basically the existing front of that building by adding the window. They just simply don't meet that 60% glazing requirement with matching sort of that existing look of the building. If you would ask, well, then why didn't you just make the window a little bit bigger here? When you look at the floor plan, you can see that there's a wall right there. So between the new window and their new sort of receiving door, there isn't really much room to do any more window there. Again, I know it's already been mentioned, but the setback, so South Shore Village is a little bit different than some other areas where we have a minimum and a maximum setback. So you can kind of see these dashed lines up here off of 17th Street are those, that's the minimum, maximum setback requirements that we have. Obviously, this building is much further back than that. I think it's about 120 feet back. So in order to meet our code, they would have to do an addition that came all the way out to those couple dashed lines to be able to meet the requirements that we have. So again, that is, setbacks are a waiver that you guys are allowed to consider. I know I gave you, I gave you quite a lengthy staff report. But the standards are simply, whether you guys believe it's, fitting in with the context of the site. So you do have a lot of discretion about granting those sorts of waivers. But again, if they wanted to occupy this site without doing these additions, they certainly would be allowed to do that today. If they wanted to do the addition that was under 500 square feet and meet those glazing requirements and the setback, you guys wouldn't even see it. So I know you've gotten a lot of comments from the public who've had some concerns about the use of the site. And again, I guess I'm just sort of repeating myself, saying the retail use is permitted out there. Your job is really to look at this site plan and these waiver requirements that they're asking for. I did put in one of the slides, just because I thought we could look at this in the context of the new South Shore Village visioning that we just did. And when you look at that, this is that area where this existing use is. Some of the things that were called out there were some possible residential uses. What I think is more appropriate for the conversation here is when this is the implementation matrix that we have for that. There is some things in the connect and the calm and the green and beauty where we do talk about those pedestrian connections, like adding that into the site from Dykema, as well as the additional landscaping that's going on. That does hit on some of these things with the vision plan. So even though obviously this is not a residential use, which is kind of called out there in that yellow color on this property, again, I think it's important to remember that This is just a vision plan showing some concepts of what could happen out there. It certainly isn't, you know, in the sense of what our code, you know, allows for somebody to do out there. But I just thought you might find that interesting as it relates to this site. So all that being said, the staff is recommending approval of their addition along with the 2 waivers that they're asking for.
Okay, I will, thank you, Steve, for that presentation. Do the commissioners have any questions for either the presenter or Steve? Okay.
Yeah. Steve, I've got a couple of questions for you. One is 510, the property that's immediately to the east. Does that fall within the required setbacks?
It's probably really close. It might
Okay.
be just a little bit.
Okay, because that was the one that looked, of all of those along there, looked the one that was the second farthest away from the road frontage. So, okay, that's close to a definite answer on that. Let me ask you this one. The property as it currently sits, does it meet the 60% glazing requirement?
I don't know if we have any numbers on the
Okay,
existing.
because I know we're not approving that. I'm just curious as to whether it would be moving it from conforming to non-conforming by
Yeah.
doing this.
So, and again, the numbers that you have are just in regards to the addition, not the whole frontage. It's probably closer than the addition, but
Yeah.
I don't have any numbers.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from commissioners? Otherwise, since this is this does require a public hearing, and moving on, comments and questions from the audience are now welcome. When you come forward, state your name and address and your comment. Is there today? Okay, we are putting a 5-minute limit on comments. No one is speaking. I guess I will close the public hearing.
I'm ready to make a motion to get us talking about this.
Do I have
I'm-
a s-
I move we deny.
do I have a second?
Support, just to have the conversation. Support.
Okay, we have support.
I'm happy to explain why. The setback waiver, I get and I understand completely, because it would make absolutely no sense in the world to do any addition on this property that would fall within the setback requirements, unless it was a complete redesign, reuse of the building. Where I do have the issue with the waiver is with the glazing requirements. That I understand that it may be easier, it may be cheaper, it may be more functional for them to that. We have those requirements for a reason, to try to create. We're a planning commission. We're trying to create a community that is as livable as it can be, and I really hesitate giving a waiver that causes a building to become less conforming than what it currently is. I don't think that the setback waiver would necessarily do that. It would still be as far back from the road as it was otherwise. But I am not inclined to vote for a waiver on the glazing requirements on this building that would take it down that much.
Okay. Any
Steve,
other comments?
yeah, if they were to move the door for that receiving area on the addition, they could probably meet the window glazing requirement at that point, right? If they move the door maybe to the side of the building versus the front?
Yeah, maybe, or increase I'll call it the height of the window. They might be able to. And maybe just so I understand, so are we only talking about the waivers right now, or is that a motion to deny the site plan?
Well, I don't think we can approve the site plan unless we give the waivers. And so it would be a denial of the site plan based on the fact that, I'm not
Granting the waiver.
granting the waiver. Yeah, my motion's to not grant that waiver.
Okay.
Any other comments?
So can you show the picture, I'm sorry, Dave, were you
Sure,
gonna say
not a
something?
problem, no. Show the picture.
Just the front, yeah, that's
There
what
you
I wanted to see. So I think, yeah, I think it would be worse if the applicant changed the size of the window to meet the glazing requirement by making it larger, taller. And in the way that it is right now, it appears anyway to conform to the already existing windows. It does seem like what you showed us was that it seems like there was an extension of the floor plan on the inside. They wanted to make the retail space larger. Is that why that wall is there, or is that wall already there?
Yeah, you're right. So they expand that wall out, and that wall is what's in between that receiving door and that new window.
So that's what makes it, I
what's-
understand that.
that wall is
but
what's
it's
right
because they're
here.
actually putting up a new wall that makes the glazing not possible.
It does seem though, I mean, that, just generally, it's not like an insurmountable problem that couldn't be like if,
Right.
the reorganization in the inside of the building could allow for that glazing requirement to be met on the front of the building.
Yeah, a smaller window next to the larger window, or something like that. I mean, what do I know? I'm designing here. I do appreciate you putting up the South Shore Village visioning document, because I think that's helpful. I think all really great ideas that came out of that, but so much of it is dependent on private property. Like, we can't really determine, that would be lovely, the way that it's designed, but I think, that's a little farther down the road, and we don't really have much control over those properties right now. We don't have any control over the properties.
And Steve was really clear about the fact that if they wanted to do this use on this site without this addition, they could go right ahead and do that. And I understand that completely and get that, and no problem. My issue is they're asking us, and if they designed this addition that met the glazing requirement, I think my motion would have been the opposite of what it is. Because I think it's perfectly reasonable for a property owner to go, I want to use this use in a use that is allowed under the ordinance, and the waiver that I'm asking for still fits with the building, still fits with the use, does not really make it less conforming than it is now. But the glazing requirement does, and Nate, as you said, I think it's a relatively easy problem to get over. It's probably not the least expensive way for them to do it, but there's a reason why we've got these requirements, is to try to make sure that there is a character of the buildings in a particular area. And this is one where I think that's entirely possible with this, but not with this site plan.
Let me just, if you don't mind, because I probably just really abbreviated sort of these standards that we talk about, but I know it's in your packet. You've got that whole waiver section, and it does have the criteria all spelled out there for you. So maybe if you don't mind, I'll just kind of quickly do that. Planning Commission shall grant a waiver request if, in your opinion, the following criteria are met. There's kind of two different options that we have from there. The first is if they meet one of the following, that there are two or more standards that cannot be met simultaneously. The building or property is subject to unique circumstances not caused by the owner, developer, designer that renders compliance with the standard of this article impossible or not practical. And three, that the waiver request is meant to increase the walkability of the sub-district. Or the second option is if they meet both of the following criteria. The building and site design clearly still meet the intent of the form-based code, even though all standards will not be met. And two, that the waiver will not create an unsafe or unwelcoming pedestrian environment. So, I mean, I guess I just wanted to make sure that was clear, that those are exact criteria that you can use in granting a waiver. So that's what we would use on judging an up or down, I think is best for you.
Well, I think that aligns with, you know, the property height or the building height conversation, right? I mean, that's it would certainly not be welcoming or create a welcoming or walkable community by changing or aligning the proposed building addition heights to what our current requirements are, and maybe, you know, changing the look of it from what the existing building appears to be. But I don't necessarily agree with the idea that it's a hardship that is unable to be overcome for the building glazing, and even just keeping in with the existing aesthetic of the building, I think there's still possibility there that could be explored.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to change your
Oh,
opinion
yeah,
or anything.
no,
I just
no,
wanted
no,
to
no,
make sure
yep,
you were- it
yep,
was
I
clear that you
appreciate
had-
that. Yep, no, and I think I was just trying to
Sure.
answer
I
what
think
you had
I'm
shared.
ready to call the vote. We've had enough conversation, and I would ask for,
And
are you not ready to do that? Okay.
Just following up,
Sure.
Nate.
mhm.
So in that first one you said, I just need to, I think I need to understand that. I read it earlier, but so if two or more standards that can't be met simultaneously, so would the two standards then be the setback and the glazing waiver? And it seems to me that they can't be met simultaneously.
Correct, yeah.
So that would not be, we wouldn't be able to meet that number one.
No, I think that's not
Am I-
my understanding of
okay.
it. I think that, say, I'm trying to think of a good example, and Steve, maybe you can have a good example of where there are two different standards in the ordinance that if you tried to meet, you can't physically meet both of them in order to be able to make it occur. So building height and glazing, that, you know, no matter what we do here, we can't meet the glazing requirement because we'd have to go over the building height requirement in order to be able to do it. That's the way I read number one.
They could feasibly do the setback and the glazing.
Mhm.
Sure, of course. But I agree that the setback seems like a reasonable request.
Yeah, as I go through each one of these, just because I did go through these and read through them over and over again and went, okay, are we in here? Under sub I, C sub I, one of the following criteria is met. There are two or more standards that cannot be met simultaneously. There aren't, as far as I can, my determination is there are not two or more standards that cannot be met simultaneously. In other words, they're not prevented from meeting the glazing requirement because of another standard that we have. Two, the building or property is subject to a unique circumstance not caused by the owner, developer, or designer that renders compliance with a standard of this article impossible or not practical. I think the discussion that we've had here is it's possible, it's practical, it could be done. A design change would make it so that could happen. And I don't believe that the waiver request is meant to increase the walkability of the sub-district. So under C sub I or sub 1, none of those requirements are met. And then under 2, both of the following criteria have to be met. The building and site design clearly still meet the intent of the form-based code, even though all standards will not be met. I don't believe that the building as it stands meets form-based code. And this is not even a form-based code section of the zoning, is it? It
Yes,
is.
it's
It is.
the
Okay,
South
I'm
Shore
sorry.
Village.
Yes, it is. But it does. It doesn't meet form-based code as far as I'm concerned. And the waiver will not create an unsafe and unwelcoming pedestrian environment. I would argue that it wouldn't necessarily be an unsafe pedestrian environment, but maybe less welcoming than it was before. One of the reasons for the glazing requirement is to create a more welcoming environment for a pedestrian. And I think that this does make it less welcoming than it was before because it's not meeting that glazing requirement. So I believe that it fails under both 1 and 2.
Okay, any other comments or questions from commissioners? So let's call the vote.
So just for
Yes.
clarity, voting yes is to vote to
To
deny
deny
the site plan.
site plan.
Yeah.
Correct.
Well, no, right now, is to deny the
The
variance,
waiver.
or the waiver, which will then not
Okay.
allow us to address the site plan.
All right, there you go.
So the motion is to deny Box,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Owens,
Yes.
Orm,
Yes.
Bosch,
Yes.
DeBlock.
Yes.
Motion to deny passes.
Do you need a motion on the site plan?
Now, yes, we also have to vote on the site plan, so.
I move we deny the site plan.
I second that.
Do we also have to vote on the other waiver? Or just, does the site plan cover that?
I guess it might be nice just for the record and maybe so the applicant, if they decide to pursue anything, they know.
That's the other one.
I move we, first I withdraw my motion to deny the site plan. Are you interested?
I'll support that.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
I move we approve the waiver in regard to setback.
Support.
I believe I'm gonna do a voice vote on that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Unanimous voice vote.
I move we deny the site plan.
There was one more waiver too.
Was there a third waiver?
There's 3 waivers, right?
No.
Two.
Just
Just
two.
two.
Just
Okay,
two.
sorry. Support.
Okay. Have a motion and support to deny the site plan. I'm thinking I'm gonna do do a roll call, just for,
All right, so the motion is to deny the site plan. Box,
Yes.
Bosch,
Yes.
Orm,
Yes.
Owens,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
DeBlock.
yes.
Motion to deny passes.
Okay. Moving on to 367 Country Club Road, site plan and special land use request for a mixed-use development. And this is Malone Development, LLC.
Shane Malone with Malone Development, and the proposal here is the site at the corner of 16th Street and Country Club Road, I'm sure you're familiar with. We're proposing to construct 88 residential apartment units and a commercial space on the corner would be about 2,300 square feet. Excuse me. Essentially, the unit mix would be 56 one-bedroom apartments and 32 two-bedroom apartments. And the square footage of those would be 712 square feet and 1,033 square feet. One of the goals of the plan was to make sure that we brought the building up to the street to interact with the intersection and the streetscaping and not be set back over a sea of a parking lot. So that was very important for us with this design. We wanted to respect the mixed-use component of the zoning code, of course, and bring in that commercial space to create just a good flow and energy to the site. We feel the site is very appropriate for apartments, and essentially we designed the plan to meet the criteria of the code with one exception, which I'm sure you're aware of, which is I believe the code states that the whole first story of the 16th Street building should be commercial space. So we're requesting a special land use permit to allow us to essentially only have the 2,340 square foot space in the corner and not the entire first story of that building, which would be about 10,000 square feet. And the reason for that is just the economic viability. From a business perspective, we're concerned that that could sit there for a long time and be vacant in that location. We do support having some mixed use, as I mentioned earlier, but having that much square footage could be a potential detriment to the success of the project. So that was one thing we can talk about further. The site faces, slopes down towards 16th Street, so we have the stormwater taken care of in the southeast quadrant to allow us to really be active in that southwest quadrant, the main corner. It's a 3-story building, which meets the 33-foot height allowance. And there's a couple things too we can talk about in regards to the setbacks are 25 feet off of 16th Street. There may be some questions about the depth of the commercial space, so I'll just mention those now. They vary from 29 feet in depth to 23 feet in depth. I believe the requirement is 25 feet per the zoning code. One thing to mention is the reason they went back to 23 feet in that commercial space is in order to get the extra 2 feet to meet the code, it would require 2 columns and a beam, which would just be a potential visual detriment to the space and make it less usable and ideal. Could it be done? Yes, but it may not be worth doing that. Similarly to the western side on Country Club Road, is about a 19-foot depth of the commercial space, and it would also require 2 columns and a beam to get out to 25 feet there. So just to note on that, we can talk more if needed. That's the overview. I appreciate your time.
Okay. Any questions from commissioners?
Yeah, I do. What kind of commercial use would you be thinking for that space? I'm guessing you guys have run some numbers and looked at market projections.
I would say it's
and those
very
things.
open-ended at this point. We're essentially designing it to more or less meet the code. It's going to be very open as far as the potential user and what the market will absorb there. We want it to be obviously a respectable tenant. We're looking to do market rate units here. We want it to be a very high-quality project. So it have to be something that's appropriate to what we're trying to create there, is the best I can say at this point. But as far as the actual type of retail, it's just too early to say at this juncture.
Okay. And I've looked at a lot of site plans, and I'm looking back at this one again, and it's one thing I didn't look for when I was reviewing it initially. Parking for that retail space, where are you anticipating?
It's going to be in the back. Good question. It's going to be in the back. The curb cut will be off of Country Club, so there'll be no ingress egress off of 16th Street. It'll be off of Country Club Road only. And essentially, there'll be 2 curb cuts, one for the back section of the property, then one right behind the retail space. And I believe we're required to have 4 to 5 parking spaces, which we have there, along with a handicap spot.
Okay.
That location, yeah.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Anybody else have questions? Staff?
Sure, yep, thank you. So again, kind of what you're being asked to approve tonight, the site plan and the special land use approvals. So unlike the last case where we had these waivers, we again have created some flexibility for ourselves to be able to make some sort of discretionary reviews. And that's why in this case, we have the ability to grant these special land use approvals for some of these waivers. So again, not variances, but some ability for you guys to make some changes to the site. Just a couple things to point out, because I don't know if it was clear to everybody what's going on. So this is the site plan at the northeast corner, Country Club and 16th Street. This cross-hatched area right here, that is the commercial space that we're talking about. And then the rest of it is in this building, and the 2 other buildings are the apartments. This is the parking lot right behind that apartment building and the retail. It looks a little bit confusing on the site plan. There's underground stormwater detention, so that's what sort of are these other lines. I know it looks like it's not connected to the driveway. It certainly is. That's just really a labeling issue there. So just point that out real quick. In regards to one of these special land use requirements, as was mentioned, is the commercial space that's there. Really the way the code is set up, this is in the NMU zoning district, so we just did a similar type of project at 317 Central. That's really the only other one we've done since UDO was adopted. But like that, one of the requirements is that a minimum of 20% of this building fronting the front street has to be commercial. That's what they've designed. So it's not 20% of all of those buildings, it's just 20% of that building up front. And the way that it's worded is that all of the frontage along that front street, along 16th Street, would be commercial on the main floor. So again, if you kind of think back to that 317 Central project, that's what we had there, where everything along the front street was all commercial. And then on the secondary street, at least 50% of that has to be commercial. with the depth of both of those spaces being 25 feet. So that's really the special land use requests that are in front of you, is allowing for this decrease in the amount of commercial space. The decrease is because that entire first floor along 16th Street would not be commercial. And the depth of the commercial space isn't 25 feet in all of the locations. So it's the site plan and those special land use requests that allow for some of those changes to that commercial space. Just going through the site plan again real quick. One of the things in the NMU district to comply with this is that it is in a neighborhood, that it is adjacent to residential. And as a result, there is a significant amount of landscaping around the site being put in to kind of help with that. There is a residential use immediately to the north. The Meta Lodge is immediately to the east. This is the elevation plan of the building. They have planned vinyl sided building on the upper floors, and then you can see, I know the graphic isn't the greatest, but a stone facade on the front. And again, just kind of looking at this plan, this is the corner with the commercial space. You can kind of see with all of the windows. And then this is the residential area with garages. This would be the area that is facing to the north. This would be what you would see on 16th Street. This is the floor plan of the building. So again, and I'm just highlighting the building up along 16th Street because this is the one that has the commercial space in it. This is the that retail space that they have proposed there on the corner. And then along with the, this is the main floor plan, along with the apartments on the rest of that building. And then this is the upper floor of that same building. I think the apartments are, I think they range from 700 to 1,000 square feet, 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. So that's a brief summary. So the staff recommendation is to approve their request along with the special land use approvals as well. I'll just back up a little bit and say, at least in my estimation, in the NMU district is probably set up really well for those 317 projects on smaller lots. This is 5 acres. And so I think it's probably not a surprise that we would see some requests for some of that consideration for some changes to some of that, just because of the size of this site. So if that helps. But again, staff's recommendation is to approve their request.
Do any commissioners have any questions for Steve?
No questions, rather feedback. 10,000 square feet of retail in that location, I feel like is unrealistic. And I agree with the applicant.
Okay.
Is there, so there's, what's the setback for the 16th Street first floor units? Like how far are they off the road there?
I think about 25, 30 feet. There is some work going on 16th Street planned, and we may actually even be in need of possibly even some additional right-of-way. So if they're, you know, a little bit further back now, they might not be in the future when we redo some of that work.
This item does require a public hearing.
Yes, sir.
And we will open the public hearing. Individuals coming up, state your name and address, and your limit is 5 minutes. Seeing everyone rush to the mic, I believe I will officially close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Once again, to get discussion started, because I do want to have some discussion on this, move to approve the site plan.
Support.
Okay,
I have a question, Jen, I've got a question for you, follow up based on your comment. Does any retail in that site seem viable? I mean, I'm looking at this, and when you say the 10,000 square feet doesn't seem like it works, when I look at this, I'm thinking that corner, that retail, that size, that location, that layout is destined to for failure. I'm not the business expert that you are,
Yeah.
but
I mean, looking at retail in and around that area has really kind of struggled because of the speed that people go back and forth there. Maybe a coffee shop to serve the residents, but
that's what I was
small.
thinking too. But then that's why I asked about parking and parking around the back, and I'm almost of the thought that, gee, I wonder if the applicant had come forward and said, no retail in this site seems like it makes more sense, that maybe this was making this NMU in the first place might not have been the smartest thing, but that's not the question in front of us today. Because I'm concerned that that's going to sit as empty space for the developer, and that worries me. And I don't know whether that was a mistake on our part in the zoning of it. I don't know whether that's a mistake for us not sticking to the code on this and saying it's got to be bigger and then it'll be successful, or if that's a design failure. I don't know if there's a way that the developer could have designed this in a way that would have made that retail space more successful, or if it's frankly it's just the location of it. I don't know, but it's a conversation I wanted to have, and that's something I wanted to get out there, that if that's going to be successful, I'm not sure that this is it. But again, I'm a small business owner. If I were looking at that site as a location for a retail or office, I'm not sure I would be attracted to it based on the way that it's set up right now. But that's not the question is, do we require them to do more? And I'm not sure more fixes that issue here. But I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, with the second phase of Shoreline Flats just being really close by, if there was like a coffee shop or a deli or something, I mean, with this many units plus that many units at Shoreline Flats, and if it's, there's good walkability with the sidewalk there in front, you might actually see some traffic. And there's a couple local businesses, one across the street, I forget what that office building is.
Home Network. I think it's
Hope
Hope
Network.
Network.
Hope Network, and then there's another building on the other side of
Montessori.
Country Club. It used to be a Montessori, but I think Hope Network took it over. But, so there may be some, I don't know, business that would be successful.
I don't want to jinx it, obviously.
Right.
but-
I don't think more is the answer, but I don't think completely eliminating it is the answer either. I think,
Yes, every
Have a go at
ceramicist needs a place to throw pots.
It's not a place that a national franchise would select
Right.
No,
for a
no,
retail
you can't
location.
expect a
Right.
McDonald's. You can't expect a
Or
McDonald's.
Starbucks, or,
Yeah, and maybe my point is to the developer to do what you can to try to promote that site, because that's obviously going to be better for you, and that's going to be better for the community as well. But I think it's going to need some attention in order to be able to make that happen, and that's one of the reasons why I asked the question of the developer of what they were thinking of for that site when they were designing it. So, all right.
So I just wanted to go back to the first floor residential along 16th Street. I can't bring to mind if that's consistent with the other developments that we approved recently, were there, because the original Shoreline Flats does not have first floor residential. Did the second stage?
I don't know, that one's set a little bit further off of 16th comparatively.
There was one building along 16th though, right, wasn't there? Do you
Yeah,
remember?
there was, but Nate is right. I mean, it's much further back. I mean, it's inside 200 feet, but it's
Oh,
not,
yeah.
it's not 25.
Yeah, this feels to me way too close to the 16th Street to be, and I always feel a little bit weird about saying, because somebody might like to live there, right?
There are
But it
people
doesn't
who
feel
move
like,
here from
when
big
we're thinking
cities.
about the health and safety of people along a street that isn't as busy, it might be fine, but this street is really, pretty fast and busy.
But currently it is meeting the right-of-way setback standards, correct?
Yes.
Exactly.
With its current,
So
okay.
it meets all of those requirements.
Yep.
Just have a quick comment, am I allowed to talk or no?
Yeah.
No?
Sure, still.
If you wanted to, you're the chair.
Sure,
Okay.
you could still,
Please,
before we,
Just in regards to the comment about the setback, I hear what you're saying completely. I have a little cold, I'm sorry. But with the Shoreline Flats down the street, I believe they have the garages facing, going from memory, facing the street, and they are very far set back. So if we're really talking about a mixed-use zoning code, to be successful, that does require that you're pretty close to the sidewalk. And so pretty close being, you know, in a more urban context, right at the sidewalk within 5-10 feet. In this example, we're 25 feet to respect kind of what you're saying and try to find that middle ground. But I think that really to be something that, what I think the city is going after, the mixed-use component, so on and so forth, you want that face to face the street. When you start turning your back to the street, it becomes very suburban and awkward. And I think that that's, from what I understand, not the intent of the design code in Holland. I think Holland's been very successful in the downtown district, doing things the right way from an urbanism perspective. And so we're trying to take that, excuse me, that thought process and apply it here as well. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think it's, you know, I think about the River Place that went up, they also, you know, it's on a busy road, and so they put the residential on the second floor. Yeah, I appreciate Nate pointing out that it does meet all of the setback requirements, and so it feels like it's a little bit different than the downtown area, but I understand what you're saying.
So we have a motion, we have support, we're ready. Now, is this all gonna happen in one vote, or do we need to do
So I guess I've asked for it to be
two? Okay. So what was the original motion for, to approve this?
Move the special land, approve the special land use was the original motion.
Okay, so let's vote on that one, and we'll roll call.
All right, the motion is to approve the special land use. Box,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes,
Bosch,
Yes.
Orm,
Yes.
Owens,
Yes.
DeBlock.
Yes.
Motion to approve passes.
Okay. Second motion?
I move we approve the site plan.
support.
I have comment.
Yeah, pardon?
I have comment. I always have comment.
Okay.
Getting out of here by 7.
For a community that is in desperate need of more housing, 88 units is a big dent. Thank you. And thank you also, Dave, for allowing the developer to come up and comment on the reasons why having that face that also makes all the sense in terms of what it is that we're trying to accomplish here. And I would much rather people be driving down 16th Street and seeing residences rather than garage doors. And so we appreciate that. Thank you for understanding what it is that we're trying to do. And I think the original idea for having this as neighborhood mixed use was that we wanted to try to create spaces for people where they could live as much of their lives as possible without having to get in their car and go somewhere else. And so hopefully with the retail that's part of this will allow for some more of that in that area. So that's all I have to say.
Okay. I'm thinking to move things along, I'm going to do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We have a unanimous voice vote. Okay. Moving right along. 621 South Point Ridge. This is for the new Homewood Suites.
Good evening.
Yeah. Sometimes that's a blessing.
I didn't formally get asked to speak, but is that what happens next?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. I'm Bill Mast. I'm with Vista Brothers and the ownership group of the land on which we wish to build this hotel. My team with me tonight includes Angela Mann. She's the operating side of the hotels that with whom we have developed 8 hotels and still own 5 of those. Haley Zavola is with Rowe Traffic Engineering Firm, and Justin Longstreth's with Moore and Bujink, our civil engineer. We've owned the land since, I think, 2002 or slightly before, and we built and operated and then sold the residence that's there now, which is, I guess, in for a 30-room addition, which we had planned for that long time ago. you guys are no doubt strangers to the incredible growth at the south end of Holland, and we would like to serve that market. And we've got a hotel in Bloomington, Illinois, which was doing fairly well until the battery plant went next to it, and that has renewed our interest in this site. So we would like to build a 123-room Homewood Suites by Hilton. We've received Hilton approval. We found out through this process that although we bought 5 condominium units a long time ago, the 4 that we still own have been combined into one parcel, so I just dropped off the split application for that on my way in here this evening. We would like to build it this spring, and we're in for site plan approval. Sometimes when a developer proposes more green space than is the absolute minimum, there may be some suspicion as to why we're doing it or what we're up to, but that's the current configuration of that lot. And with Tommy's coming in, and that whole condominium association had been kind of defunct for a couple decades, went through a whole bunch of paperwork during COVID while I had COVID, and we got that all done and don't really have much interest in going back and doing it again. Some of the partners are hard to reach, and so we just figured what we'd do here. Some of the hotels that we've built have had unique physical settings, and I mean, against big wetlands or lakes or something like, not lakes, I guess that's it, but rather large retention basins. And those have high guest scores and much higher return rates, and we just believe that if we can do something a little better than what's standard out there, we'd like to do so here. And since we have owned the land for so long, and our cost basis in it is something that we don't think about every day, we might as well use it. So that's our application. I'll be happy to answer any questions that I may answer or defer anything to any of my team members.
Any questions? Otherwise,
Yeah, I have
Okay,
a
sure.
question, just kind of trying to understand the hotel market. So we have a few hotels in the area on the south side that have really kind of struggled, or I know at least one of them is close to foreclosure and several of them kind of run to decay. Help me understand the market for building new hotels as opposed to revitalizing the existing ones.
I think, and it's a valid question out there, and our experience, I'm with Hospitality Specialists and also represent part of the ownership group in this adventure. And we've been in Holland. We actually built the Holiday Inn that was originally built 40 years ago. So we've been in this market a long time. We have, as Bill mentioned, built the Residence Inn. So we have our experience there. And we manage the Country Inn on the north side for quite some time too. So we have a lot of experience in the market at different price points, at different product. So looking at where things are in the market, different ownership groups, the way we have run properties, the way we're in partnership with Hilton, which is a brand that keeps their products to a high quality standard. And things that we've seen with the pandemic that are different. Our world changed, and over those 2 years, we have seen that the extended stay product is what people want. It can be seen as either a high-end product, it can be a nice one-night stay, it can be for people who have a house fire and come and stay with us for 6 months. The Homewood Suites in particular, we have the one in Grand Rapids, and we also have one in Columbus, Ohio. So we have different markets, different size. So we have experience there with this brand and with extended stay in general, because we have other Residence Inn products, Town Place Suites, Home 2 Suites. So we know that people are looking for that now more than ever, where they want to have more in the guest room. The guest room has a small kitchenette. We have studios, and we have 1 bedrooms. But what they have to offer is a little bit more than some of the traditional, we have a lot of Hampton Inn hotels too, which are great, but they are kind of your beige box. And we know that what we're building is not. It's a very unique product. It comes with more of a living area, more of a living environment that's still something that you can travel with your family. We have a lot of wedding business, group business, but the business traveler, and we know that that area is just booming. But we know if people are going to be coming, for instance, maybe LG will be bringing in people that will relocate. We know what business we got at the Residence Inn from Hayworth right across the street. We know a lot of what's coming in from Tommy and have been already in contact with them, and they're bringing in much of a training facility and would like to, an extended stay room offers a little bit more. You've got the residents in next door, but we still think that the market is viable for a product. We think that we're gonna have some unique options that people will really look for when they're traveling, because we have more of that outdoor space, and we're planning to do a couple fire pits. We're planning to have an indoor bar in the lobby where people might be able to take some drinks outside, or might be able to have a function where they could actually have a wedding function there in our meeting room and perhaps enjoy the outdoor area. Or we'll have a pet washing station. We know that one of the other things that's huge out there, all Hilton hotels now are pet friendly, because that's a big thing for people. And we're gonna have some walking paths and a pet washing station. We'll also have some activity areas on the lawn so people will have things to do. And we think it's a more unique package than what you might see at some of the other hotels in Holland in the different areas. And we fully believe that our experience in this market too says that people who are on the north side stay on the north side, and people who are on the south side stay on the south side. They don't travel down Waverly very well, even though it seems very easy to me. But we've tried it for years to say, no, come on up here to the Country Inn. And no, if you're down here right next to our Residence Inn, they weren't coming up to the north side. So we do think that while there's a lot of new product maybe on the north side, we think that being closer to the LG and the Hayworth and the new Hudsonville ice cream, the airport, a lot of that area, it looks like to me that's where a lot of development might go, because it's gonna head south. There's so much that's already gone north. It seems like a good place to put a nice hotel that could meet the needs of people coming in the summer and all times.
Thank you. Okay. Any other commissioners have questions? Otherwise, I will entertain, let's see, have I had a public hearing yet? No. I will open a public hearing. Public hearing's officially open. Anyone wish to come to the mic and see? It is a good thing to not, to have people go. I will close the public hearing. Entertain a motion.
I move we approve.
Support.
I'm gonna do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes.
Just a
Unanimous.
quick comment. Looks great. Thank you. I think that your last comments, you understand the Holland market. When you said no, but they're not interested in coming from the north side to the south side. Obviously, you've been around here for a while. Yes. Thank you for trying, though. We're gonna continue to do the same thing, but this looks wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, moving right along. I know. 120 Regent Boulevard. Rezoning request from industrial to airport. Okay, yes.
Hi, my name is Aaron Thalenwood. I'm the director with the West Michigan Regional Airport Authority, and hopefully be able to keep this pretty concise for you all tonight. So, reaching out today as we are moving forward on a number of development initiatives out at the airport these days, and if you ever want to come out and learn more about it, please let me know. Happy to host you, give you the grand tour. So, primarily the property that's in question here, 120 Regent Boulevard, we refer to colloquially as parcels B and C, so if I happen to slip into that, please bear with me as well. The property directly north of the airport terminal building, we call that parcel C, and fall of next year that's slated for construction of a new taxi lane to connect that property to the rest of the airfield. So it's a pretty critical project. We've been moving that forward for the past 3 years, and we're getting close now to actually breaking ground on that. Environmentals are being done currently with our consulting team, with Mead and Hunt, and they're coordinating with MDOT Aeronautics and the FAA. Back in 2017, I think it was, but give or take a year or two based on when it actually occurred, we worked with the city staff to develop the airport overlay district. The initial intent of that was kind of twofold. One, to set a defined set of development parameters that were in line with MDOT, FAA restrictions and oversight, as well as kind of make a clean base for future development at the airport. So as we want to attract new businesses and opportunities on field, we want to set a set of rules that was conducive to that. The second point of that was to also incorporate any and all airport-owned property into that overlay district, and this parcel was missed. This parcel, it's my understanding, was procured as part of the development of the terminal project back in 2016. And so when you look at the properties that the airport lies on, the majority of those are owned by the city of Holland, because back in the day when the FAA grant assurances came through, the city was the sponsor at that time. This is one of, if not the only properties that is actually owned by the airport authority, because come 2016, the airport authority existed as an entity, actually prior to 2016, whenever the property was procured for the terminal building, so let's say 2015 to get a round even number on it. The airport authority would have been the sponsor for those FAA and MDOT grants to purchase that property. So the ask today is effectively, well, I would, I guess, add on. Additionally, we just recently came to the conclusion that these properties weren't included under the airport zoning district. We met with city staff to kind of do an update as far as where the taxi lane project is, as far as the process with MDOT and FAA is concerned, and then we came to the realization these properties actually are not currently zoned airport. So they're owned by the airport authority, but not zoned airport. So we're looking to remedy that. And kind of as a quick aside for what ultimately is going to occur with these properties, so we will be constructing a taxi lane to build that baseline foundation access to that parcel. And from there, the airport is working through its business park development task force to begin identifying good business partners and opportunities that will not only increase activity on field, but will also create a array of services that are going to help the airport be more of a destination. We're taking a holistic look at that. So as we're looking at things like detail shops, paint shops, avionics, we're also looking at community engagement opportunities. So we're working with local educational partners, both on field and off field, to also identify, how do we grow that capacity as well. So when we look at development of these parcels, we're taking a very wide, holistic view. So with that, if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Any questions from commissioners? No? Steve, you want to add anything?
Maybe just a couple quick things, just because Aaron mentioned a couple times the airport overlay district. So just because our zoning, our ordinance also has an airport, so we are talking about a rezoning, not to confuse that with the actual airport overlay that's in our code. So this request, just as you see it there on the screen, would be essentially turning that parcel from gray industrial to green airport. And one of the things Aaron didn't mention, I don't think, was that if it's purchased with FAA through the FAA funds, it really does limit the use to aeronautical uses. So really, we just kind of view this as a correction more than almost anything. So our recommendation is that you send a recommendation to City Council to rezone this from industrial to airport.
Thank you. This is an issue that requires a public hearing, and thank you. I will, since I saw no more questions from commissioners, I will open the public hearing. Does anyone have anything to say about the rezoning of the airport property? Seeing mass quantities of folks rushing to the mic, I will close the public hearing.
Move we approve.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Unanimous voice vote. Okay, moving on. 355 East 64th Street. Request to rezone a parcel from airport to industrial.
Who's this guy? Who's this guy?
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, so this was the last one you recommended turning gray to green, and this is a recommendation to turn green to gray. So this is parcel K. This is a property that was declared surplus. It was purchased with FAA funds. So Aaron kind of alluded to the complexity that why I'm standing here and he is not, is that it is a city property that has to be disposed of, and then we transfer the funds back to the airport per the FAA. Since we're selling the property, it will no longer be used for airport purposes. So our recommendation to you, or request to you, in talking with Steve, since we already had Aaron coming in with one, is to get ahead of this, get it rezoned industrial, as the applicant and the city have already approved the purchase of that, and they would be pursuing industrial uses on that piece of property. But I would be more than happy to answer any questions you may have regarding that.
Steve, are you? any questions?
I really don't have anything else to add.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
This also requires a public hearing, so I will officially open the public hearing. Does anyone care to say anything? I will officially close the public hearing.
Move we approve.
Support.
Since we are approved and supported, I'm going to do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We have a unanimous voice vote. Communications and petitions. We have more public hearings coming up, need to be
So
scheduled?
our deadline is next week, so I don't have anything for sure at this point. Although we do have, as I mentioned before, sort of a docket of UDO 7 that we would like to get on our, sort of on our track. So we certainly have some of that stuff to talk about at study session. So I would still like to have that meeting, even if we don't have anything. Maybe we could keep it short, but still have another week to see if we get some more of these tire kickers to see if they come in.
Activity, yes. Okay. I guess I can agree we should meet in December. Any words of wisdom from commissioners? I'm sure you all voted. Okay. Staff, I will accept the motion to get out of here.
So moved.
Support.
All in favor, say bye.
Aye.
Hey, hey. Yes. Oh, let's,